Hello friends, I hope you are well. Today we will talk about Posidonius. Posidonius, often called Posidonius of Rhodes, was one of the most brilliant polymaths of the ancient world. Born in Apamea, a Hellenistic city in Syria, around 135 BC, he belonged to a period when Greek science and philosophy flourished across the Mediterranean. Though born in Syria, Posidonius spent much of his life traveling and teaching across the Greek world, especially in Rhodes, which became his intellectual home and where he founded his famous school of philosophy. He was a philosopher, historian, astronomer, geographer, diplomat, and teacher, widely respected by Romans and Greeks alike. Posidonius was a Stoic philosopher, but his mind was deeply eclectic. He combined Stoic thought with ideas from other schools, like Platonism and Aristotelianism. He expanded Stoic doctrines to embrace science and empirical observation. Unlike earlier Stoics who were more focused on ethics and logic, Posidonius sought to understand the cosmos, nature, and human society as interconnected parts of a living, rational whole. He believed in a divinely ordered universe, where even emotions and natural phenomena had rational explanations. As a scientist and geographer, Posidonius made groundbreaking contributions. He calculated the circumference of the Earth, improving on Eratosthenes' estimate, and while his calculation, about 29,000 miles, was slightly off, it was remarkably accurate for the time. He also studied the tides, proposing a connection between the moon and tidal movements, an early step toward understanding lunar influence. His travels took him as far as Iberia, Spain, Gaul, and Italy, where he observed local customs, geography, and astronomical phenomena firsthand. He described the Atlantic coasts and the lands of the Celts, becoming one of the primary sources in these regions for later historians. In politics and diplomacy, Posidonius was active as well. Rhodes, as an important city-state, sent him as an ambassador to Rome, where he engaged with prominent Roman statesmen. He became personally acquainted with figures such as Cicero, who admired him deeply, Pompey, and even Julius Caesar. Cicero famously visited Posidonius in Rhodes to hear him lecture on philosophy, a visit that left a strong mark on Roman intellectual life. Through these connections, Posidonius played an indirect role in shaping Roman understanding of Greek science and ethics. Posidonius was also a prolific historian. He wrote an ambitious history that continued the work of Polybius, covering the period from 146 BC down to his own time. His historical writing, though lost, was highly esteemed in antiquity for blending analysis of causes with lively narratives. He examined not just events but the underlying factors: climate, geography, character of peoples, and economics. His histories influenced later Roman writers, including Livy, Strabo, and Diodorus Siculus. Sadly, much of Posidonius's original work has not survived, but his legacy endures through the fragments quoted by later authors. His work had a profound impact on ancient thought. He bridged the Greek and Roman worlds, transmitting scientific and philosophical ideas that would echo for centuries. In many ways, he was one of the last great universal scholars of antiquity, a man whose curiosity knew no bounds. Posidonius likely died around 51 BC, in Rhodes, leaving behind a legacy as a philosopher who sought to unify human knowledge. To Cicero, he was the most learned of men, and modern scholars regard him as one of the greatest intellectuals of his age, a thinker whose influence helped shape the intellectual landscape of both the Hellenistic world and early imperial Rome. Histories, continuing Polybius. Posidonius's Histories was his largest and most ambitious work, written in around 52 books. It picked up where the historian Polybius had left off, covering events from the fall of Corinth in 146 BC to Posidonius's own lifetime, around the 60s BC. The work combined political history with ethnography, geography, and climate studies. He described Roman expansion, the decline of the Greek world, and included vivid accounts of Celtic tribes in Gaul and Spain, emphasizing their customs, warfare, and societies. He also analyzed moral causes of historical events, not just politics and battles. Importantly, Posidonius viewed history as driven by both human character and natural circumstances, like geography and climate. His approach was philosophical and analytical, blending facts with reflections on human nature. His history became a key source for later historians like Strabo, Diodorus Siculus, and even Plutarch. On the Ocean, Peri Okeano. In this geographical treatise, Posidonius explored the nature of the oceans, currents, and tides. He observed the Atlantic Ocean during his travels to Spain and Gaul and noted the patterns of the tides, correctly theorizing that they were connected to the moon's motion, a revolutionary insight for his time. He also described the peoples living along the Atlantic coast, giving early accounts of the Celts and Iberians. This book influenced Roman geographical thought, especially through the work of Strabo. On meteorology, Peri Meteoron. This work was an attempt to explain weather phenomena, celestial events, and natural disasters like earthquakes and volcanoes. Posidonius combined Stoic physics with empirical observations, aiming to show that even chaotic natural events had rational explanations within the cosmic order. He studied the causes of rain, wind, eclipses, and earthquakes, presenting a unified theory of nature. His approach influenced later thinkers, including Seneca in his Natural Questions. On the Soul, Peri Psyches. In this philosophical treatise, Posidonius explored the nature of the soul, emotions, and human psychology from a Stoic perspective but with some modifications. He argued that emotions were not entirely irrational but could be understood as natural movements of the soul responding to external stimuli. His work in this area was so influential that Cicero and Galen later referred to it, and it helped shape Roman and early Christian thought about human nature and moral psychology. On divination. In this book, Posidonius tackled the topic of divination, prophecy, omens, and astrology. While remaining rational, he accepted that the cosmos was an interconnected whole, and that certain signs might indeed reveal the will of the divine or natural inclinations. His work likely influenced Roman intellectuals who were fascinated by astrology and divination, like Cicero, who wrote on divination partially in response. Ethical writings, various. Posidonius wrote many works on ethics, focusing on how human beings should live in accordance with nature and reason. He emphasized the unity of the universe and humanity's place within it, echoing Stoic teachings but expanding them with his own views. He believed that by understanding nature and history, people could cultivate virtue and emotional resilience. His ethical writings were admired by Stoic philosophers and Roman statesmen alike. Astronomical works, various treatises. Posidonius was deeply interested in astronomy. He wrote texts, titles now lost, explaining celestial phenomena, the size and distance of the sun and moon, and he improved measurements of the Earth's circumference. His astronomical theories were respected in antiquity and later informed Roman scientific knowledge. Commentaries and letters. Posidonius also wrote letters and commentaries, explaining philosophical doctrines and engaging in debates with other intellectuals of his time. Though most are lost, fragments show he corresponded with influential figures and clarified Stoic positions on physics, ethics, and logic. Posidonius's writings were encyclopedic in scope. He tried to understand the world as a living, interconnected system, blending science, philosophy, and history into a unified vision. Though most of his books are lost, their echoes remain in the works of many ancient authors who used Posidonius as their foundation. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.